Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
This is Mr. Chris Claremont, a legend.
Melanie goes,
Tired.
Happy Monday, all you minties. Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And join me today for your advanced look at the Captain America by Mark Gruenwald Omnibus Volume 2 from Marvel Comics. So let's take a look at this book together. And welcome back, everybody. Before going any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us an advance copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on July 29th or 30th, depending on where you get your books. So what we're looking at here is the standard edition cover. This is the one that is supplied by Ron Lim and inked by Jim Lee. Now, on the left-hand side is your direct market cover. That one also supplied by Ron Lim. But that one only available at places like cheapgraphicnovels.com, bdcosmos.com, waltzcomicshop.com, comicsbugle.com, readcomics.com, forbiddenplanet.com, organic price books, Dying Breed Collectors, in-stock trades, Tales of Wonder, and of course your local comic book store. This is a very iconic image right here from the anniversary issue. And honestly, when am I going to get the chance to see Jim Lee ink Ron Lim again? This really is a lot of the Ron Lim era, and that is a big, thick spine right there. Captain America by Mark Gruenwald, Volume 2. Love to see the Gru's name on there. Hopefully we will see one day a Quasar book. That would be awesome. Steve Rogers wields the shield once more. Yep, that pretty much sums up what this is going to be about. And then, of course, the front cover again, and let's look underneath. But first, actually, let's look at the flaps here. The left-hand side is an action-packed era for Captain America, telling you a little bit about what kind of stories to find in here. And on the right is the bio on the creators. Now, what they've done here is, I thought this was from the Handbook of the Marvel Universe, that I know that Mark Gruenwald was a huge part of, but no, this is actually from, I think it's one of the annuals, but here we have some of our key players during this particular era of Captain America. You have like characters like John Jameson, Peggy Carter, of course Jarvis right there, the Falcon. Oh man, I think back here, Nomad, was D-Man back here maybe? They took them out. Oh well. You have Michael O'Brien here and Nick Fury, and then Fabian, I cannot remember Fabian's last name, but Diamondback. And then over here you have the Skeleton Crew. Of course, you have Red Skull right there, and Mother Knight, and Machine Smith, Crossbones. Actually, Crossbones making his first appearance through here. You've got the Sleeper and Minister Blood. And those are some of the villains that Captain America is going to be fighting against, and Captain America by Mark Gruenwald Volume 2. Alright, so we are going to open this up and talk about the stories found in here, look at this artwork, look at the extras in the back, and then talk about the build of the Omni. Alright, let's go ahead and get this Omni open. You have your white end sheets right there, and then you've got your title page of Captain America by Mark Gruenwald, and you even have U.S. Agent making an appearance there. And here are all the credits. Mark Gruenwald, Fabian Niciesa's stories actually collected. I love the fact that they actually collected it here. I know even though it's a Mark Gruenwald Omni, they put it in here. And that is so freaking awesome. But also Kieran Dwyer, who actually is the penciler towards the very beginning here. Ron Lim taking over. And then we have some Rich Buckler, Al Milgram, Mark Bright, Ron Garney, and Kevin West, Kevin Maguire. Oh, Kevin Maguire's artwork in that Captain America or Adventures of Captain America issue is so good. Inkers right here like Danny Bulanati and Don Hudson, Al Milgram, Sam De La Rosa, Mike Manley, Joseph Rubinstein, Terry Austin. Colorists down here like Bob Sharon, Jack Fury, Gregory Wright, and Paul Mounts and Christy Shealy, just to name a few. And then your letters like Jack Morelli and Diana Albers and Richard Starkings and Rick Parker. Your table of contents right here. One of the things that the table of contents leaves out is this beautiful and wonderful and really thorough introduction again by none other than Ralph Macchio, who I had the pleasure of meeting at Heroes Con. And yes, finally, years after saying his name, Ralph Macchio, I actually have been saying it right. He really appreciated that. He was like, yeah, most people say Macchio like the Karate Kid. And I was like, I remember reading something many years ago when I was a kid that it was like, don't call him the Karate Kid, and this is how you pronounce Macchio. But anyway, this is a very thorough, absolute thorough, without giving too many spoilers away of the issues, like the breakdown of the issues. He gives you a little bit of the recap of what happened previously here with the introduction of the different character of John Walker, and just kind of giving you a recap of everything that happened previously, and then, of course, how great Mark Gruenwald was to come up with these stories that just were always entering his head. So collected in this omnibus is Captain America 351 to 386, Captain America Annuals 9 and 10, Adventures of Captain America 1 through 4, and the material from Daredevil Annual number 7 and Punisher Annual number 4. The book has 1,288 pages and retails for $150. The very first issue right here, after the big battle between the Captain and Captain America, where Steve Rogers gets the cowl back and puts it on, and they have a news conference, there's an assassination attempt on John Walker, and it is none other than the Scourge. So the Scourge is back, and Captain America has a little bit of a freaking out moment. He's like, wait, the Red Skull, now the Scourge is back? What the heck is going on with my life? I don't understand. How can this be? So it's a lot of things that are coming back, and honestly, I mean, if you've been reading Captain America for a long time, you know that eventually the freaking Red Skull will be back, and there are some tremendous Red Skull stories in here. And then we move on to other stories that are going to be collected in here, because this, oh my gosh, the first part of this omnibus has so much great stories in here, like the Bloodstone saga, and then it even has the probably one of my favorite Magneto stories from Acts of Vengeance. But you know, it's not just that, but it's also fighting against these Supreme Soviets right here. There's a wonderful story where he goes to Cersei to get young, to become young again, if you will, and go undercover in this issue right here. And it's such a unique Captain America thing to do while he's monitoring all his villains, like who could still be alive out there. But yes, it's got this really awesome story where he goes to Cersei because Bernie, his old girlfriend, approaches him about her missing sister, how she was probably being abducted by a cult. So he goes into this cult mentality that he breaks into, and it is none other than Mother Night that is leading this cult. And it's up to him to break these kids out, but he's a young version of Captain America. I do love the fact that to wrap up that story, it goes directly into the Bloodstone Hunt. And I was like, whoa, that's like we're wrapping up the Mother Night storyline right here, and we're jumping right into the next story. And the next story is so freaking cool. I love this story. This is the Bloodstone Hunt is like your Indiana Jones type of story when it comes to Captain America. It was an idea by Mark Gruenwald and Kieran Dwyer that they wanted to tell a story much like Indiana Jones. So this is the story of Helmut Zemo, who's obsessed with bringing his father back from the dead. And in order to bring him back from the dead, he has to go on this journey, on this search for fragments of the Bloodstone. And that is a Ulysses Bloodstone was a character from way back in the day. This if you're expecting Elsa to show up, unfortunately, I don't have good news for you. But what this does is this adventure type of story, like a very Indiana Jones type of story that features both Captain America and Diamondback. And Diamondback is starting to form this close relationship, this bond to Captain America. You know, they started off as enemies, and then she kind of started seeing the light side of things and started helping him out a little bit. And one other important thing about these stories is that we also have the Night of the Scourge as the backup stories, which features U.S. Agent going after the Scourge. Now, that story, of course, doesn't get resolved until a lot later. We have early appearances here, and I love the way that this character first appeared through these pages, by the way. It's one of my favorite things, that we have the introduction of this no-name character who looked like a complete badass, or I love his design, and that is none other than Crossbones. Like, we get a little cameo. We don't have his name. He's just lurking in the shadows. He's keeping an eye on Captain America and Diamondback. And they're all fighting against Batroc and Zaran and Machete. And then, of course, Baron Helmut Zemo. And eventually, he does make a full appearance in the last chapter of the storyline right here, where he just comes in and starts fighting Captain America and Diamondback. So this is like he's on the cover, and then eventually he actually reveals his name right here. The name's Crossbones, darling. And he is not shy away from hitting women. He's that kind of dark and horrible character that will be a thorn at the side of Captain America. Now, during this time, we don't know exactly who he's working for, but of course, everything points to the Red Skull. Like, whenever in doubt, like, if you're ever in doubt, it's most of the time the Red Skull. And as I mentioned, there's just amazing stories. One thing leads into another. Now we are looking at the Acts of Vengeance tie-ins right here. And every one of these comics, every one of these issues will have a backup story. Like this one right here is about King Cobra and the Serpent Society and Mr. Hyde. You have the fight here between Captain America and the Controller, because this again ties into the Acts of Vengeance. But the very memorable issue, the thing that a lot of us loved about the Acts of Vengeance, is this huge fight that's about to happen between Magneto and the Red Skull. Magneto, you know, realizes that, of course, he's a villain, right? But every villain in their own mind is a hero. But he's a different villain than the Red Skull. You know, his whole family, he himself, were part of a concentration camp. And then the Red Skull's a Nazi. So he stands against everything the Red Skull is. And this is when he takes it out. And what he does at the end, if you've never read this, oh my gosh, it is one of the best Magneto moments of all time. The fact that, anyway, I don't want to spoil what happens at the end here. But Acts of Vengeance continues a little bit, because then we have the fight against Captain America. We have Machine Smith come back. Now we have the character of the Black Queen right here. And, you know, this is a character from the X-Men, but actually the New Mutants. And she's playing a big role through this particular issue right here with the introduction of the Skeleton Crew. And I mentioned the Skeleton Crew a little bit earlier. So it's just weird to see her playing a role through these issues of the Skeleton Crew. But it's mainly during this time, Machine Smith and Crossbones and the Sleeper, and then eventually Mother Night and the Minister Blood will end up joining them. And again, this is where Captain America and Diamondback get close. As a matter of fact, there's a whole issue in here where it's nothing but a date between them right here. It's just a date. Of course, things never really go right. And by now we have Ron Lim coming in. You know, Kieran Dwyer was doing the early issues back here. And then we have Ron Lim stepping in as the new ongoing artist. And he's like, I love the shock in Steve Rogers' face of like, whoa, Diamondback, that's the way you look underneath that costume? You figured it'd be the other way around. Now, she's not the only villain that is turning towards the light side. As a matter of fact, you're going to see a whole Bad Girl Inc. Or is it Bad Girls Incorporated, maybe? This is part of the Terminus. Actually, it's just part one, the Terminus Factor. Now, much like the Epic Collection, they don't collect the other parts, but this is a virus that is spreading, making people fight each other. They don't collect parts 2, 3, and 4, but there is a recap as to what's happened, and because those took place in other characters' annuals like Iron Man. But the backup stories are here, including the Nomad story, and of course the Captain America story. And then this tells you what happened through the Terminus Factor 2 through 5. City on Ice. This is the beginning of something that will be called the Streets of Poison. So the Streets of Poison was another class. Like, there's just... I have to say, this might be my favorite Captain America Mark Gruenwald Omnibus. Like, when people ask me, what's your favorite X Factor by Peter David Omnibus? What's your favorite Hulk by Peter David Omnibus? There's going to be 4 of these, I hope, if they keep selling. And a part of me is like, oh, it's got to be either 2 or 3. 2 or 3. 3 for a lot of the nostalgia, but 2 I always thought had the better stories. And Streets of Poison is such a classic story. It is the story where Steve Rogers gets addicted to drugs, but not because, he was trying them out or experimenting them. It's just by pure happenstance that he gets addicted to them during this fight where something blows up in his face. Now, the coolest part about this is, yes, the Kingpin and the Red Skull, that fight is awesome, but it is the whole Bullseye and Crossbones fight against Daredevil and Captain America. And it is so wicked to see just characters from other comics show up and then fighting, these characters that you've gotten to know over the years. Again, every issue has a backup story, whether it's Battlestar, whether it's John Walker, whether it's Vagabond, or whether it's King Cobra. Sometimes it's Crossbones, and we're about to go see a lot of backup stories of Diamondback through here. But Streets of Poison goes on for, I think it's about 7 issues. Then we get Nefarious, who looks a lot like Count Nefaria. What is he doing with his costume? We get the whole Serpent Society, and by now the Serpent Society has had a lot of characters come and go. We've got some early Mark Gruenwald artwork right there, and the Serpent Society is putting Diamondback on trial. So you got characters like Rock Python and Black Racer, Black Mamba, the Rattler, and other. Oh, what is that one character's name? Is it Boomslang, I think? But you've got Cottonmouth, and there's Bushmaster right there. So you've got all these new characters and old Serpent Society characters. Again, these were characters that were created by none other than Mark Gruenwald. And we've got the return of a character that is a lot different than the way he was when he first appeared, and that is Paladin. I even loved his outfit. He was, in this run, he was a lot more similar to the character of Deadpool, more so than like the Punisher. This, of course, is the anniversary issue right here. This is the one that's the cover is based on right here. So this is the 50th anniversary issue, and it is Captain America that is traveling and meeting the different spirits of America, if you will. And in a very Captain America way, he refuses to believe that any of this is real, and perhaps he is being manipulated. We get Ron Frenz retelling the story of Captain America. And speaking of retelling, one of the best, if not the very best retelling of Captain America is done all the way here in the back. And we'll talk about that here in a second. We have a reunion with Jack Frost, one of the invaders. And then we have the return of the Watchdogs. And this is what I meant. This is now Rachel Diamondback living with Black Mamba and Asp. And it's like Bad Girl's Gone Good. I love the fact that she has a new outfit for a while. And yes, U.S. Agent makes a return and has something to say to Captain America. And they're always at each other's throats, I swear. Then we have the crossover of the Von Strucker Gambit, which you could probably guess which villain is coming back through these issues right here. But you have the Punisher, and you've got the issues of Daredevil. But each one of them focusing on different villains, by the way. Now, the whole annual of Captain America is collected through here. You don't get the whole annual of Daredevil, for example. And then in the very back, oh, that's where it comes from, yeah, we have the Adventures of Captain America, Sentinel of Liberty. Thrills, Spills, and Chills. This is such an amazing retelling of Captain America's origin. So you have Fabian ECSF, Kevin Maguire, Joe Rubenstein, but then Terry Austin does some of the inks too. Richard Starkings and Paul Mount's beautiful. I think the colors are just perfect. This came out in it was like a prestige format, and this is the way it looked. And I am so glad that they decided to collect it here. I know that the Gru didn't write it, but to me, this was the very best retelling of Captain America's origin, adding in a lot of elements. You know, you still have the classic stories in here of Captain America going through this trial experiment, and then, of course, you know, Steve Rogers becoming Captain America, the Sentinel of Liberty. But you also have, you know, the story of Bucky and Red Skull through here, just adding a lot of elements that weren't in the original origin. And it's just done in such a great, like, almost like channeling that art style from that era. Maybe it's the colors. I don't know. There's just something extra special about this particular miniseries, and Kevin Maguire's artwork just killing it. And then in the back, let's go ahead and look at the back here, where we have articles from Marvel Age, Mark's Remarks, and Birth of a Legend. So this is the anniversary stuff. Although the letter pages aren't included, I wish they had those, but I know they do those for the like the actual volumes, right? Like Captain America volume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh yes, Jim Lee's piece right there. Another Jim Lee piece from issue 268 of Uncanny. Whoa, that's awesome. It's the original piece courtesy of Heritage Auctions, and then Adventures of Captain America pencils by Kevin Maguire. I used to have that trade paperback of the Blood Hunt, and I had that trade of the Streets of Poison long before the nice trades we have, and Epic Collections. Speaking of Epic Collections, these are the two that are collected in here. And I think part of the next one too, because Adventures of Captain America is not in this one. But long before the Epics, we had these old trade paperbacks. All right, those are your end sheets. I think I just make sure I went through everything. Yes. Okay, let's look at the build. 1,288 pages, and the book retails for $150. This one is printed at the Donley printer. So you get a minimal bleed through happening. And it's a big eye, so let's look at the way that double page spreads look. So we're looking early on. This is issue 128, and you do have some gutter loss. You can see by this young lady's eye right there. You can't see the whole eye, but let's look. Actually, let's go back to this double page spread back here of the Serpent Society, and you can see that has some gutter loss right there. You can tell by King Cobra's face that it's got some. But it does look better. Of course, I'm showing you the extreme sides. You have the beginning and the end. But I did want to make people aware of that. And that is it. Captain America by Mark Gruenwald Omnibus Volume 2. And that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors. BD Cosmos, the Canadian leader in graphic novels. They have a physical storefront in Montreal, Quebec, and their website, bdcosmos.com, offers 25% off your order of over $99 or more, and free shipping everywhere in Canada for every order of $250 or more.
Their shipping care is exceptional. Your books will stay cozy through the rough Canadian weather and arrive to you in near mint condition.
After checkout, let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way, and you'll be added to the monthly $25 gift card raffle. Entries are valid for new and returning customers.
Don't be afraid to call or email them. Ask them questions. Their staff is always happy to help guide you towards the right purchase. Visit their website, bdcosmos.com, for more. BD Cosmos, with rewards and raffles taking care of customers in Canada. Eh?
CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this omnibus. Let me know in the comments down below which of the covers you ended up getting, which of the, I guess, well, both of them are done by Ron Lim, but which cover spoke to you and which one you ended up getting. And then what you thought of this era. Is this, to you, the pretty much the peak of Captain America by Gruenwald, or with the next volume, or even the 4th volume? And yeah, no announcements yet. Surprise, huh? Well, I hope you're subscribed to Near Mint Condition. Anyway, that is it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Smash that like button on the way out. Check us out on Patreon and Spreadshop. Amazing ways to support the channel if you could do so. Stay healthy and safe out there. And Stars and Stripes. Sorry, I had to go with the Marvel vs. Capcom. Anyway.